They have the hard-hitting analysis.
I'm anti-injury, so maybe this won't work out.
Kyler's only playing one tight end this week, so that's probably going to help him out a lot.
They tell it like it is.
That's not what I needed, Grandma Nut.
All right, the hipster fantasy player.
I don't do anything.
Their listeners love them.
Found all your charts boring, to be frank. Caitlin was the star of the show.
They break down all the statistics.
20 points. That doesn't quite add up. Maybe he had 93.
This is the Snick Snack Sports Podcast.
Here we... All right, Snickers, help me out.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to December football starting up soon. How are you doing today, Nate?
Doing great, Snickers. We do have December starting up soon, tomorrow, in fact. Another great week of football ahead of us. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. I hope everyone caught that Taylor Swift reference there. I'm sure you didn't, but
I did
okay.
not. But Taylor Swift is on the mind this year for a lot of people, so might have some hope. We got an exciting show for you. We got one of our playoff hopefuls joining us in Kenny. We had a lot of eliminations this week, but also a very tight playoffs race for 7 teams, with a lot of interesting playoff scenarios to examine. So let's get into it and take a look at the standings.
Yeah, what's really interesting is the top 7 people here who are still at least 30% in it are all have the chance to get the 1 seed still, I believe, depending on how exactly tiebreakers work out, but it's going to be coming down to the race for every seed, looks like.
Yeah, and I got a little bit of a clarification on the tiebreakers. It's been a bit confusing this year because the race has been so tight. We know that the first criteria for tiebreaker is head-to-head matchup, but as I learned from our commissioner, Matt, earlier this afternoon, when there is a multiple-way tie, it skips right over head-to-head and goes for points scored because the head-to-heads it's impossible to break a multi-way tie if there's a triangular relationship, which of course is going to be with 5 teams.
Yeah, so right now we got John on top, Ducky, you, Nick Adams, and Carson all at 8-4, all fighting for that 1 seed, and one of you might not even make the playoffs. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I thought it was. We've had a couple trades this week, which we'll get more into when Kenny joins us. But I thought it was interesting that Kyle's big move to get Justin Jefferson actually decreased his playoff chances by 7%. I'm not sure
all
exactly.
I can say is I really hope it helps him out next week. Hope he wins this week and has a chance to fight for a playoff spot next week in the final week of the season.
Yeah, I know he sold big, and it would be if he loses this week, he's out. I think that's clear from looking at the, if he loses and Kenny wins, I think he has a little bit of a chance if he loses. But, if he spent a 3rd round pick, I believe it was, and then doesn't have a chance to even use that player who's on bye this week, that would hurt. But just looking at the scenarios a little bit, again, with the tie, it's going to come down to points for, I think, John and Nick will have that big time. So for me to come in first, I have to kind of win out, I think, basically, because these guys are going to win at least 1 game each. Me and Kenny are playing each other in the final week. If Kenny wants to make it in, he'll probably, he doesn't have to beat me, but it certainly would help him. It's complicated, actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kenny is home versus John right now and then at you for the final week of the season. So he has a actually pretty tough schedule coming up. 2 8-4 matchups.
But also, that helps him control his own destiny to be playing these teams he's trying to pass. So
yeah.
Now, unfortunately, you were eliminated last week along with Katie and Matt. How do you plan on playing spoiler as the race heats up?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still trying to win every game that I can here, just like I did last year. I made it into the Toilet Bowl and then never lost again in 3 separate leagues. I won a Toilet Bowl in 3 leagues.
And that got you some pretty nice picks.
Yeah, No,
Where
I'm
do you see
definitely fighting for this year still, trying to win as many games as I can, but still looking forward to next year just in the side eye here.
Because yeah, let's not forget people that there's still a lot of reason this year, just like last year, to be playing in the consolation bracket because the winner of the toilet bowl does get to choose their selection. And getting to pick, I don't remember what you picked. Was it third pick or second pick this year?
No, I went one.
Well, you went one.
Of course, I do. If I could go 5 and get Christian McCaffrey, I would have done it, but that's okay.
Still very fun to pick, to have that control. And now I'm curious, are you solely focused on winning? Are you picking some maybe some grudges in the playoff contenders and trying to block them from success?
I'm not trying to block anyone necessarily. I have matchups against Matt, who's out, and then John in the final week. So I'm still going to try and beat John in the final week there. We'll see how it goes. And, he's pretty notorious for not sitting his lineup in the last couple of weeks, but there's no buys. There's a pretty good chance he'll still win. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's true, but also like this, per se, you wanted my team to lose and my quarterback got injured. You could pick up a bunch of quarterbacks and rid your bench just to make sure that I can't do that.
That's true. That's true. We'll see if Katie or Kyler might want to do that too. We'll see if anyone wants to get on that.
Yeah, you guys all collude and lead to there being no quarterbacks for pickup or punters for pickup or something. But yeah, now our bet last week finally went our way. It was Josh Allen versus Pat Mahomes, some of the big guns. What happened there?
Yeah, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts obviously had a great duel in Mahomes, and Mahomes, had an okay game, got 20 points, but Josh Allen blew everyone away with 40-point game there, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 300-something yards. So yeah, you got that win. You're now have 5 points to my 7 points, and we'll see how it goes the last couple weeks of the season here. It's getting close.
Yeah, and remember, our system is not a week by week system in the playoffs. It starts becoming a point for every member of our bracket that we get right, and then 2 points for the champion.
Yeah.
So yeah, very excited about that. And glad things have stayed close this year. Let's look a little bit at what is our bet this week, I guess, is maybe where we go next.
Yeah, what's really interesting is the backfield in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are going up against each other. That Najee's been the number 1 all year long, and technically has been a better running back most weeks, but Jalen Warren's actually projected 0.2 points higher this week. So I think it'll be a really interesting bet, seeing as Nate has Najee. So Nate's sticking with Najee, and I'm sticking with Jalen, who I have in one of my other leagues, that are going to go up against each other this week and see who can score the most points.
Yeah, I think that projection's a bunch of bull. I mean, last week, Najee got twice as many yards for the same number of carries as Jalen Warren. Now, Jalen Warren's been used more in the passing game. That does worry me. It's an excellent matchup for them both. But I think Najee Harris was a first-round draft pick for a reason.
And Jalen Warren was undrafted for a reason, apparently. But I think he's going to use it as a chip on his shoulder and knock Najee off that pedestal here.
We will see. We will see. I'm feeling pretty good about this one, I will say. Looking at our matchups this week, this was the matchup in which Katie was eliminated over Shane. Shane did have a nice bounce back here, and actually rooting for him this next week because he's playing a playoff contender. He's technically still in the playoffs right now. He has to win out and win big. And Josh Allen carried him through. That's really the end of the story and I guess the Dolphins defense, which is not going to do that again. But yeah, I guess sad for Katie. She had a great season, but the luck did not swing her way this year.
Yeah, no, winner going out super early is the trend. I hope doesn't continue, but that's it feels like she got eliminated much earlier than a winner of last year should have.
I know, and I think she has the 3rd most points in the league, or the 4th most points in the league. So there was an exciting matchup between the Olive Man and Kyle that actually was very impactful. The Olive Man basically secured his playoff spot. Meanwhile, Kyle is now on the brink of elimination because of this 4-point swing here.
Yeah, no, we had Kyle on last week, but I hope he feels good that he has Lamar Jackson on his bench this week, so Lamar can't keep screwing him giving the goal line touchdowns away.
Yeah, I saw he's got Baker in there. Baker has been good this year. That may not be a terrible situation for him.
Yeah, Carolina should be a pretty good game. I know Baker's revenge game, shake and bake. Here we go.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously there's been some big moves, including ones that Ducky has made to invest in this year, as has Kyle. So, people, the trading draft picks thing did, I think, inspire some trading, just like Matt was hoping. Now, Kenny had a big win over you. Justin Fields didn't get it done. I actually don't know how he looked on the field. Probably pretty terrible, though, based on the score of that game.
Yeah, that was the first. The Bears were the first team this year to win a game without scoring any touchdowns. So
Oh no, I actually thought Minnesota won this game. That means Kyle is out of the survivor pool.
yeah, no, that's rough. It's 12-10 finish. So these things, we'll see how Kenny is when he gets on the show here.
But yeah, that was tough for you. I know you were kind of rotating between a bunch of quarterbacks. None of them were great, and none of them would have got you the win. So, then I had a pretty dominant win over mid-tier Nick. Carson a pretty dominant win over Matt. Not a lot of close ones this week. What's going on in the NFL?
Yeah, the huge news in the NFL is the second coach this year has been fired, Frank Reich from the Carolina Panthers. Seems like the owner of the Panthers is not very sympathetic to anyone's case. He's ready to get rid of anyone who's not doing the job for him. But as far as a couple of injury updates here, Chris Olave, Dorian Thompson-Robinson both have concussions. They left the games after Olave scored like 100 points. But Rashid Shaheed injured, Amari Cooper has some ribs injury. Cooper Kupp, who knows exactly what's going on with him? I know he is really bad. It was probably a bad draft pick, overall. But Jonathan Taylor, huge news, is having thumb surgery. They're saying he's going to be out for at least 2 weeks, meaning he might be able to come back for the fantasy football playoffs and for the championship round. If Carson makes it there, he'll be able to use them and hopefully be pretty good there. But the other big news is Aaron Rodgers is officially practicing. He's not cleared fully for contact, but his 21-day window opened off the IR, so he has 3 weeks to get back on the field and see how it goes. I think Carson just dropped him, if I remember correctly. So he's a free agent there, Katie, if you want to pick him up.
Yeah, I loved that. We were kind of giving Carson crap for keeping him all season. He gets activated. First thing that Carson does is drop him. So exactly what he was waiting for, I'm not sure. I'm sure he may not even been aware of that news, but the timing was definitely pretty humorous. Yeah, and I was pretty opposed to the Reich dropping, because he really didn't have a chance. He had a new quarterback. He's supposed to be a bit of a quarterback guru. Why move on this fast? This team wasn't going to be good this year.
Yeah. No, Frank Reich's the first coach to be fired before the end of the season, 2 seasons in a row, 2 different teams. So that makes great history. Everyone forgets about his history of greatest college and greatest NFL comebacks of all time. He was part of them, and the quarterback leading them as a backup usually. So we'll see how he gets remembered after this going up into next year.
Yeah, maybe the Patriots will get him. I wouldn't mind. But yeah, now before we have Kenny on our show, we just have a quick word from today's sponsor.
John Canna is not the answer. We can talk about his lack of football knowledge and inexperience, but who cares? This is a man who supports the flogging of koala bears, pushes children down sewer drains, and throws like a girl. John Canna has been quoted as saying, O.J. Simpson is a great guy, and I consider him a close personal friend. If you want a real commissioner, not somebody who thinks tomatoes are spicy, vote for Matt Berluti.
This is John Canna, and I approve this message.
Is your voice.
Well, thank you, Matt, for continuing to battle to keep a spot. I think many of us consider you to be an excellent commissioner. And now we'll welcome Kenny to the show. All right, welcome Kenny. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, doing well. Was an interesting week last week for sure, but I'm holding on to some good hope right now.
Yeah.
You got 80% chance to make the playoffs. I think that must be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I've looked at it, knowing that tiebreakers are head to head. Kyle has the tiebreaker over me, so him right at my heels. Definitely that chance is there. I have a tough stretch here. I got John, who's got the best, I think the best scoring offense so far. I think he's got the best this year. So I got a tough one. Carson has people and who are his lineup. I need Carson to win this week. So Carson, to this later. Don't forget to set your lineup, please.
Yeah. No, we're looking at it right before we started the pod here, and we noticed that all his Cowboys and Seahawks players are where they should be right now. So he still has a couple days to get us lineup set.
Yeah, definitely hope he gets the rest set, because that one does have huge implications. Because if I win and Kyle loses, it's done. If he gets 2 losses, he's done. Because I got that one game over him. So there's some combination of like I win, he loses twice, I win twice. One of those, something like that, will get me into the playoffs. So I'm feeling good, but it's not over, and I'll fight to the end.
No, absolutely.
And you have a pretty strong point scored, actually. I think the 3rd strongest in the league. And so I think even if Kyle wins out, do you have the possibility of replacing Nick, myself, or Carson if we lose one of our games?
That is also true, yes. So there's a couple scenarios. There's a lot of ways I get in. There's still certainly ways I don't make it. So I've been I think it's more exciting. The league has been very, very close here at the end. Everyone kind of right in the thick of it, and no one locked in for a playoff spot yet. I think is just adds into some extra stress and pressure. And I think that's even shown in some of the trades I see popping around. It's everyone's making that push, and I think that just makes the league exciting.
I agree. We were just talking before about the trade between Snickers and Kyle, which was a very risky trade on Kyle's part. He traded for Justin Jefferson for a high draft pick, and Justin Jefferson is not playing this week. He could be out of the playoffs before his trade even comes to fruition.
Yeah, I saw that, and I on one hand, I completely understand it. You need to take risks. You need to, when you're in positions where like it's jockeying for those last 1 or 2 spots for the playoffs, you're right on the edge. I completely agree. You send it, you make the effort if you think you have a shot, and he thinks, getting Justin Jefferson in for like the last game of the year could get him there. I think it'll pay off. And I think it's like with like a lot of the 4th down people going for it with the analytics, like, you can't say it was a bad decision just because it doesn't work. I still think it's still a good decision, even if it doesn't work. You have to take the risks, or else you're playing to lose. Like, I completely agree for playing to win. Definitely a high cost. I mean, I certainly understand that myself, having traded away my 3rd round pick already for next year. I gave Matt my 3rd round pick for Saquon Barkley, and as Nate pointed out, it is certainly a risk. At the time, I was questioning, or no, I guess it was Ducky was saying, isn't he hurt? And I said, just give him more Toradol, we're fine. But these are risks you take, and I don't disagree with Kyle for doing it. I think certainly, Snickers, that helps you a ton going into next year. And you're sadly one of the teams now eliminated from playoff contention, but you jump on the bandwagon that Matt's already on, to start setting up for next year.
Yeah, no, that's super well said, especially for someone who's trying to knock you out of the playoffs. But yeah, I personally hope Kyle does win this week, just so it becomes a more fair trade on paper. But if I didn't get eliminated last week, if I did eke out the win against you, I probably wouldn't have made that trade, because I wanted to be able to sneak into the 6th seed here. But we'll see, how it goes.
there were trades offers in the background, and if I lost, I would have considered them. I won't disclose who for their. I'm an honorable man, and I will keep privacy private. But the offer did involve CMC, and I would have considered it for high draft picks if I lost to you. But as soon as I won, I messaged them back and said, well, they messaged me and said, "You won't die," and I said, "I'm too stubborn to die."
That has to be a movie quote from some Avengers movie.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I would not be surprised. I don't know exactly when our trade deadline is. I forgot to look that up.
It's
but
tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh,
At
okay.
3 a.m. So we have like 6 hours to make trades right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if people like Ducky are, shooting for a couple other stronger players from some of our out of contention people over the next 24 hours.
Well, I mean, over the next 6, I guess, if it's done at 3 a.m., hopefully those are in motion because you gotta get those in. But
that's so tomorrow at 3 p.m. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So we're coming down to the wire, but I think again, also then adding in, being able to trade the draft picks, I think it made things very exciting here. It's very interesting to see where that market is. I don't think any of us have quite figured it out. Some people going for like 3rd round picks. I saw a couple that were more like 7 and 8, just like that slightly off. I think trying to figure out exactly how they all play in will be something we really figure out going into next year after we see how this affects the draft and teams next year. I think that we'll see the market will figure itself out. But
yeah, no, absolutely. I was talking to a couple people about trading Justin Jefferson. I was trying to figure out really what the huge difference was between like a 6th and a 10th round pick. Like obviously that's 6th is better, but going back and forth, that's how much that really matters. It's not like a top 1, 2, 3 pick, and it's not obviously the last pick in the draft kind of thing.
Yeah, it is tough. Sometimes you have to just look at who was picked there. So like, I don't know if it ends up being like, oh, Tyler Lockett for Nico Collins. It's like, oh, actually I would have preferred to have Nico anyways. But it is certainly a 10th round pick doesn't mean you're necessarily getting a worse player, is my only point. Now let's take a look at your matchup here, Kenny. Obviously, this one's of some consequence for both teams, although John is the most likely to make the playoffs of everybody. You care quite a bit about this game. What is going to be the key for your success?
I think the key for my success, so already I look at my lineup. I obviously only have 2 running backs this week that can play. So I'm kind of not expecting a lot with Miles Sanders. So I really need like some other players to step up. Calvin Ridley might yet sneak his way back into my lineup. It's going to actually depend hilariously on whether or not Zay Jones plays, because I don't know if you guys are aware of the conspiracy. If you look at the weeks Zay Jones plays versus the weeks he doesn't, and look at Calvin Ridley's average, the weeks Zay Jones does not play, Calvin Ridley averages 5.8 points. The weeks Zay Jones plays, he's averaging 23.1.
Actually, I'm very knowledgeable about that. That me and Nate listen to this podcast, and Kyle does too, that they have pointed that out a lot. And it's not that Zay Jones is taking away targets or anything necessarily. It's they think it's more of a pep thing, that Zay Jones is the cheerleader on the field with Calvin Ridley.
I just think Zay Jones is keeping his DraftKings account locked down. When he's out there, he's keeping Calvin Ridley off of DraftKings and keeping him focused. That's the key. That's the key of success. So I think Zay Jones is playing. So Calvin Ridley may yet sneak his way back in. I don't know who would take out over him. It's a tough one. That's still in the works, but I think that may end up being a key for me. But I'm going to really need to be carried again by Christian McCaffrey. I know the Eagles have obviously one of the best run defenses in the country. That front defensive line is insane. The back end is really the problem, and CMC gets plenty of receiving work. So I don't think it's a fair just, it's a good run defense, CMC is going to have a bad week. So I'm going to need him to really carry me, Ayuk to carry me. I'm just going to need support on the other side through the other positions, because I don't have a lot of hope on Miles Sanders. It hasn't panned out the way I wanted him to.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Kenny. With the trade deadline coming down to the wire here, I would be very happy to give you the better Panthers running back, which I've just had to
No.
bench week after week despite his success because I have so many good running backs. But if you like him,
No,
Um,
I don't.
I
I
mean,
don't.
I would just take one of these bench players like Jordan Addison, maybe.
Not a chance.
Feels like deja vu all over again.
I was gonna say this feels like a trade that has been proposed previously,
I mean,
and I
if you're
believe I
happy,
said no then too.
if you're happy playing a backup running back on the week that decides your season, that's fine. But I just wouldn't be.
I think I got enough else to help carry my team, and there's always next week. I'm willing to roll those dice. I'm not rolling those dice with Chuba Hubbard.
Well, that is your choice, and I respect it. But now let's take a look at some of these other matchups because there's actually this week is probably the most interesting week of the year. This is another one that you care about quite a bit, Kenny. I know one that you had highlighted, Snickers. The Kyle versus Carson matchup. What's going on here, Snickers?
Yeah, no, these are two teams that are fighting for the playoffs. They're both projected. Once Carson sets his full lineup, they're going to be projected 130 points or so, and it's going to be coming down to the wire like always. It's going to be looks like probably decided Sunday night because everyone, unless Carson's playing T. Higgins Monday, is pretty irrelevant. But the backup strategy I think might be working for Kyle. He's been playing backup running backs all year long, and he's in the thick of things right now. So
Yeah, I think one relevant question is who does Carson have to play for Taylor and for Hawkinson? And if we look down here, he did actually make the big proactive move with Juwan Johnson. I think he spent $10 on him, so they're clearly thinking about this.
Devin Singletary's been pretty much a legend for the last couple of weeks. So
yeah,
I mean, I think the whole Texans offense really, I know there's been endless talk about it, but it's just an incredible story to see. It's really interesting to see CJ Stroud really, I think, define himself as the best quarterback to come out of the draft class this year. I don't think that's really much of a question because the only one that I think could have challenged that would have been Anthony Richardson, and we lost him pretty early in the season. I think it actually would have been way more interesting if he was fully healthy. This would have been a very interesting part of the season, just see where those two would be at against each other. But I think because of that, CJ Stroud's really gotten to step up and really lead that offense. And I think, you see that benefit in with folks like Devin Singletary, who I've had him in years past, and he hasn't really done much to ever impress me. He's been all right. Happy to see him do well. It's definitely things you like to see.
On the other hand, I think Kyle's team actually looks pretty formidable this week. He's got T. McBee in there at tight end, he's been kind of a breakout at tight ends this season. Tyreek Hill is just the best player in fantasy besides maybe Christian McCaffrey. I think there's a debate there. I think Baker Mayfield, we said earlier, is kind of a relief that he gets to play Baker this week instead of having to put in Lamar Jackson. He's never going to play Lamar behind Baker, but with the bye week, he could actually get a 20 points. Then this is going to be a really good matchup.
This is going to be a nail biter to the end. One I will definitely be. I will be on my app watching my score. I'll be scrolling over this one the entire time. I'll be watching this closely.
Another really impactful one. I mean, we haven't even talked about Shane. He's technically still in this. He, of course, will need to win out. And Nick is technically not guaranteed to be in it. And so another one with a pretty direct playoff implications. So
we got Miami versus Houston here, basically. That how many players each of them have, but it is really interesting. They both have a lot of young players. They both have a lot of new talent across the league here, and it's going to be really fun watching this one come to a head here.
Yeah, are we finally going to get to see Devon A-Chain re-break out? I think Shane sure hopes so. But he's got also Zach Moss coming back and becoming a superstar again, potentially. Alvin Kamara is the only player, I think, playing for the Saints this week. So well, I mean, Derek Carr is not who you want to see at your quarterback, but maybe I guess that stack could work out for them.
Hmm.
And Jack Campbell seems to be riding the bench. So, and that's an irreversible choice because Jordan Brooks is already playing.
Yeah, no, Shane said last week that he's only keeping Campbell on his team for the moral support to get that grittiness in there and tell Jordan Brooks how to play linebacker.
That has not been his philosophy all season. I believe he started him last week.
He has started them just about every week, yeah. And he scores an average of about 3 or 4 points each week. But Shane's almost 500, so what can you say?
Yeah, you can't question success like that. But yeah, Kenny, who do you think wins this week? Do you think that Shane can climb himself out of the gutter? If he makes the playoffs, I think it's probably at your expense.
It's probably at my expense, and I actually don't remember, and I'm going to very quickly see if I can't see my record throughout the year. Because I don't know if I assume Shane has to then have the tiebreaker over me, and I don't remember what week I played him.
Yeah, and we figured out the tiebreaker actually only matters if there's a 2-way tie. If there's a 3-way tie, it goes right to points scored, which you have him at. So
I will have.
The nightmare situation is there's only 2 of you at 7-7, and he beat you in the past.
Yes, which I'll tell you what, I can't. I use the computer right and the web page when I'm on the podcast with you guys to like watch everything, and I have tabs open ahead of time. I just use the app for everything. I can't find anything on here. It makes so much more sense for me to go on here and look back. I beat Shane.
Okay, so you are actually not the one at risk here. It has to be.
So it can't be me.
It has to be Carson.
Yeah. Somehow
Yeah, that was one of Shane's highest games of the season. He lost 160 to 145, so that was a good win by you there.
That was one of the weeks. My score is so high because even though I have some really low lows, my highs have been pretty insane as well. So I don't know what that scenario is then, because I'm at 7-5. He can only get up to 7-7. I can only fall to 7-7.
Yeah, it's not me. I beat Shane. It's possible, I guess, that he beat Ducky or John, but that would actually be that would be bad news for him because those guys
Did he beat Nick?
I don't know.
Because that might be his way in. It's either through Nick or Carson is where I think it's got to be. Somehow through, but I don't know how.
Yeah, that would require more research, which my computer cannot handle. But we will have to look more into that. And if he does win this week and is still in it, we'll explore that further.
Yeah. But I think Ducky's got this one. I feel good about Ducky on that one.
I think if Shane has a chance to turn it around, Devon Achane's back, Jack Moss, those are the things he needed to happen to make it happen. And I don't know if it's going to be enough, but I think those things were good news. Now, other impactful games, I mean, mid-tier Nick just needs to keep winning. Not complicated there. He apparently is projected to score 150 points, which is totally outlandish. And that seems to be because DK Metcalf already has 20 points, I'm now seeing.
Oh, hold on. How did that happen? What did he do already tonight?
CD got a touchdown already.
100 to receiving already. He already has receiving.
Wow.
And it's on 2 receptions. He is averaging over 50 yards a catch. That's an insane stat.
He's a beast.
Yeah, good for DK. He's had a very down season. So so this is mid-tier Nick's gonna win this game.
Yep, we're done. Move on.
And
sorry, Katie.
There is, of course, I'm in a similar situation to Nick. Just need to win. Kyler's team is struggling. He does have all his players in now and is still projected to get 100 points or less. So I'm not too worried, but ESPN still only gives me like a 60% chance to win. So, but
Statistics.
I win this one. I lock it up. So
Yeah, and to throw it back, Shane did beat Ducky in week 2 by about 1 point, so it'll be pretty interesting to see how it goes this week.
so Ducky is one of his paths in, which is not good news for him.
Right.
Because I think that one's very unlikely to happen, even if he wins this week. But yeah, so let's take a quick look at our free agents. The only thing I wanted to note here was that Carson started spending money. He even outbid Shane on Michael Dixon, which I love. Punter squabbles going on. Looks like you spent up on Harrison Butker.
I got a whatever the Buffalo guy is. I forgot because he missed 2 kicks last week and that irritated me. Tyler Bass. I'm mad at him because he missed those 2 kicks. Although I'm happy because the Eagles still won. But yeah, I just had to bring in someone real quick. We grabbed Butker real quick, and I can't spend the money next year, so down to my $26. I've been spending money. You gotta spend it.
So yeah, no, I think you can spend it in the playoffs, so I am saving a little bit just to do a QB block or something if I need to, but have not been inspired by the waiver wires of late.
Not either. There's not much.
But I think that's about all the time we have. It's always fun to have you on here though, Kenny. So thank you for joining us again.
Always exciting to be here. Hope the Eagles win.
All right, so we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.